In the heart of Bag End, where firelight dances like elven stars on oaken walls, Peregrine Took, known as Pippin, sits cross-legged on a worn rug, his eyes wide as the moon over Hobbiton. Pipe smoke curls from Bilbo Baggins' lips, weaving shapes of dragons and distant towers in the air. "Mr. Bilbo," Pippin whispers, his voice trembling with the thrill of forbidden tales. "Is it true that Smeagol murdered his own cousin Déagol for that cursed ring? I heard it sworn as fact in the Green Dragon." Bilbo's eyes, sharp despite his century of years, glint with amusement and a touch of sorrow. "Lad," he says, leaning forward, his voice low as a breeze through the old forest, "the tales of Middle-earth are grander than any inn's gossip, but they're tangled with half-truths, like brambles over an ancient path. Sit close, Pippin, and let's unravel the first of many myths, for the truth is a treasure worth seeking, richer than any dragon's hoard." The air in Bag End is warm, thick with the scent of fresh-baked bread and the faint musk of leather-bound books stacked high on every shelf. Pippin, barely past his tweens, fidgets with a brass button on his waistcoat, his mind buzzing with stories overheard in the Shire's taverns, tales of betrayal, towering fortresses, and fiery eyes that haunt the edges of Hobbit dreams. Bilbo, now stooped but spry, has seen the world beyond the hills, from the lonely mountains' caverns to Rivendell's golden halls. His love for stories is matched only by his disdain for those who twist them, and Pippin's question has stirred a spark in his heart. "Let's start with Smeagol," he says, tapping his pipe against the hearth, sending a shower of embers upward. "You think he slew his cousin Déagol, don't you, lad?" Pippin nods eagerly, his imagination painting a grim scene. Two hobbit-like stores by a riverbank, bound by blood, torn apart by greed under a grey sky. "That's what they say," he insists, "that Smeagol killed his cousin to steal the ring." Bilbo chuckles, but his voice carries a weight heavy as the ring itself. "Not quite, Pippin. In The Lord of the Rings, Tolkien calls Déagol a friend, not a cousin. They were stores, a river folk as close-knit as hobbits, and Tolkien hints in a letter, number 214, if my memory's sharp, that all in their small community were likely kin in some distant way. But cousin? That's a leap, one taken by folk like David Day in his books, which, I'll say gently, wander from the professor's truth. Smeagol's crime was dark enough. The ring's golden glint lured him to murder a friend, not family. No need to weave a family feud where none exists. Pippin shivers, picturing Smeagol's eyes, wide and hungry, as the ring's whisper coiled around his heart. The betrayal feels sharper now, not dulled by false kinship, but raw with greed's cold grip, a tragedy of trust, broken by a power no hobbit could resist. Bilbo pauses, his gaze drifting to a faded map on the wall, where the Anduin's silver thread winds through Middle-earth's wilds. The fire crackles, casting shadows that dance like wraiths across the room, and Pippin leans closer, his curiosity unquenched. "That's one myth undone," Bilbo says, a smile tugging at his lips. "But you've more questions, haven't you, lad?" Pippin's face lights up, and he nods vigorously. "What about the two towers, Mr. Bilbo? Aren't they Orthanc, where Saruman schemed, and Barad-dûr, Sauron's black spire in Mordor?" Bilbo's chuckle deepens, and he shakes his head, his white curls catching the firelight like a halo. "That's what the films would have you believe, Pippin, and they're grand pictures, mind you, full of heart and thunder, but they shift the tale, as pictures often do. Tolkien was clear in The Two Towers. The towers are Orthanc, aye, Saruman's lair of black stone, but the other is Minas Morgul, the city of the Nazgul, glowing with a sickly, corpse-like light that chills the soul. Barad-dûr, Sauron's fortress, looms in the tale later, in The Return of the King. The film swapped Minas Morgul for Barad-dûr, likely for drama's sake, as Minas Morgul doesn't appear in their second tale. Now, the world sees Sauron's spire as the second tower, but Tolkien's truth is stranger, lad. Minas Morgul's dread, not Barad-dûr's might, haunts Frodo's path through the marshes. Pippin's mind swirls with vivid images. Orthanc rising like a jagged spear from Isengard's green valley, its walls gleaming with Saruman's treachery, and Minas Morgul, its towers shimmering with a ghastly radiance, as if death itself had taken form. He sees now how the films, for all their splendor, bent the story, planting a seed of misunderstanding that grew in the Shire's taverns and beyond. "But why do folk get it wrong, Mr. Bilbo?" he asks, his brow furrowing like a ploughed field. Bilbo sighs, settling back in his armchair, the fire casting long shadows across his weathered face. Some myths sprout from books that stray, Pippin like days, which add flourishes Tolkien never penned. Others grow from tales retold, like the films, which cement new images in our minds, grand, but not always true. And some, they're wishes, ideas so grand, we want them true, but they don't fit the professor's world. The truth lies in his words, lad, in the books he poured his heart into, and it's our task to seek it, like finding a path through the old forest. The fire crackles louder, sending a shower of sparks up the chimney, like stars fleeing into the night. Pippin feels a spark of his own, a hunger to know more, to peel back the layers of rumor, and see Middle-earth as Tolkien saw it, not as tavern tales or flickering films portray. "There's more to unravel, isn't there?" he says, his voice brimming with excitement. Bilbo nods, his eyes twinkling like the Arkenstone's in a glow. "Aye, lad, many more. Come back tomorrow, when the stars are bright over the Shire, and we'll chase another pair of myths. For now, rest and dream of rivers and towers, but hold fast to the truth we've found." Pippin rises, his heart light, but his mind heavy with new questions, as he steps out into the cool Shire night. The path from Bag End glows under the moon, winding through hills that seem to hum with the weight of ancient tales, and Pippin knows he'll return, eager for more of Bilbo's wisdom. The following evening, Pippin bounds up the hill to Bag End, his cloak flapping like a bat's wings in the twilight. Inside, the kitchen is a haven of warmth, with Bilbo stirring a pot of mushroom stew, the scent of thyme and onions curling through the air. "Mr. Bilbo," Pippin calls, his face clouded with a question that's weighed on him all day. "When Frodo sailed to the Undying Lands, did he live forever? And will Sam find him there, like in a happy ending?" Bilbo's hands pause, and his eyes soften, like sunlight on a still pond. "That's a heavy one, lad," he says, gesturing to a chair by the fire. "Sit, and let's set that tale right, for it's one many misunderstand." The firelight bathes the room in gold, glinting off Bilbo's kettle and the polished wood of the table. Pippin settles in, his heart tight with hope for Frodo, the cousin who bore the ring and never quite returned to the Shire's laughter. Bilbo ladles stew into bowls, his voice steady as he begins. "The Undying Lands, Pippin, Valinor, where elves and Valar dwell, are named for their immortal folk, not because they grant eternal life to mortals like Frodo or me." Tolkien wrote, in a letter I once read, number 154, I believe, that mortals in Valinor wither faster, their lives burning out like candles in a storm's gust. Frodo sailed west for healing, to ease the wounds the ring carved into his soul. but he could not escape death. His spirit, like all mortals, would pass beyond the circles of the world, to a fate even the Valar don't know. Sam, dear Sam, sailed decades later, long after Frodo had gone, and found no reunion, only peace for himself. Pippin's eyes glisten, picturing Frodo on Valinor's silver shores, his face calm but fading, like a leaf caught in sunlight, too bright for mortal eyes. The thought stings, but there's a bittersweet beauty in it, a rest earned through sacrifice. Bilbo sets a bowl before Pippin, the steam rising like mist over the brandy wine. Eat, lad, and ask your next question. I see it brewing in those eyes. Pippin takes a spoonful, then blurts, "But what of elves like Arwen? Can they all choose to be mortal, to live and die like men?" Bilbo shakes his head, a smile tugging at his lips. "Another myth, Pippin, and a tempting one. Elves are immortal by nature, their spirits bound to ardor, as Tolkien wrote in the Silmarillion. They can be slain, aye, but their souls linger, reborn in new bodies in the West. Only a few, like Arwen, Luthien, or Elros, could choose mortality, and they weren't fully elven. Arwen, daughter of Elrond half-elven, carried mortal blood from her ancestors, Beren and Luthien. Luthien, half-Maya, sang a song so powerful it moved Mandos, the Valar of Fate, to grant her a mortal life with Beren, a feat no other has matched. Elros, Elrond's brother, chose mortality to found Númenor, while Elrond chose the elves' path. But Legolas, Galadriel, Thranduil, they have no such choice, lad. Their immortality is fixed, a gift and a burden, save by death in battle. Pippin marvels, imagining Luthien's voice, a melody that bent the laws of creation, and Arwen's quiet choice to forsake eternity for Aragorn's mortal love. He sees now the weight of elven lives, forever tied to a world that changes while they do not. The fire pops, sending a spark skittering across the hearth, and Bilbo sips his tea, his face lit with memory. These truths, Pippin, reveal the heart of Middle-earth. Mortals face death's mystery. Elves endure eternal sorrow, and both carry burdens shaped by love and loss. They're not tavern tales of endless life or easy choices, but something deeper, woven by Tolkien's hand. Pippin nods, his stew forgotten, his mind adrift in Valinor's mists and elven songs. "There's more, isn't there?" he asks, his voice soft but eager. Bilbo's eyes twinkle, bright as the even star. "Aye, lad, more myths to chase. Come back tomorrow, under the stars, and we'll explore the will that guides Middle-earth's heroes and the shadow that stalks them." Pippin rises, his heart stirred by Frodo's fate and Arwen's sacrifice, and steps into the night, where the Shire's hills seem to hum with the weight of ancient choices. Under a sky ablaze with stars, Pippin finds Bilbo in his garden, seated on a bench beneath an ancient oak. Fireflies dance like elven lights, and the air carries the sweet scent of honeysuckle. "Mr. Bilbo," Pippin says, settling beside him, "I heard Elrond summoned all the great folk to his council, like a king calling his court. Is that true?" Bilbo laughs softly, his voice blending with the night's gentle hum. "Another tale twisted, lad. Let's walk the paths of Rivendell in our minds and find the truth." The garden fades as Bilbo's words paint a scene. Rivendell, its waterfalls sparkling under moonlight, its halls filled with strangers from distant lands. Tolkien wrote in The Fellowship of the Ring that Elrond didn't summon the council, Pippin, Bilbo says, his tone warm but firm. It was no royal decree, no gathering of kings. Boromir came seeking the meaning of a cryptic dream, Legolas to report Gollum's escape from Mirkwood, Gimli with his father Gloin to warn me of Mordor's spies hunting a halfling. They met by what Tolkien calls chance, as it may seem, but it was no chance at all. Iluvatar, the One, wove their paths together, guiding them to Rivendell on that fateful day to deem the ring's doom. Frodo's small voice saying, "I will take the ring," was no accident, lad. It was fate shaped by a will greater than Elrond's. Pippin's heart swells, picturing Rivendell's council chamber, where elves, dwarves, and men sat in silence, and Frodo, smallest of all, bore the weight of the world. The idea of Iluvatar's hand, subtle yet sure, fills him with awe, making the council not a meeting of lords, but a tapestry of destiny. Bilbo shifts, his gaze fixed on a star that burns brighter than the rest. "That's one myth undone," he says, "but I see another question in your eyes, Pippin." "Out with it!" Pippin hesitates, then whispers, "What of Sauron himself? In the tales, he's a great flaming eye, a spirit with no body. Is that what he was?" Bilbo's tone grows grave, and he leans closer, his voice like a wind from Mordor's ash. "No, lad, that's another film-born myth, though it has a seed of truth. Tolkien wrote in a letter, number 246, I recall, that Sauron took a physical form in the Third Age, a man taller than most, with a black hand missing one finger, cut by Isildur's blade. When you looked into the Palantir, Pippin, you saw his cat-like eye and heard his voice. A real presence, not a ghostly flame. Gollum, too, spoke of that four-fingered hand, hinting at a torment face-to-face in Mordor's dungeons. The eye is a symbol, like Saruman's white hand, but Sauron was no mere spirit. He was a craftsman, shaping evil with a will as solid as stone. Pippin shudders, imagining Sauron's towering figure, his hand scarred yet strong, his gaze piercing through the Palantir's dark glass. The Dark Lord feels closer now, not a distant spectre, but a foe with form and menace, whose shadow looms over all. The oak above them rustles, and a firefly lands on Pippin's sleeve, its glow faint but defiant. Bilbo smiles, his voice softening. "These tales, Pippin, show us Middle-earth's depth. Fate guides the humble, and even villains have form and purpose. They're not just stories, but mirrors of courage and shadow. Want to dive deeper into these truths, lad? Share your thoughts with the Shire, and tell us what myths you'd unravel next. Speak your heart below." Pippin nods, his mind racing with images of Rivendell's council and Sauron's scarred hand, as he rises to leave. The stars wheel overhead, bright as elven gems, and he knows he'll return, eager for more of Bilbo's tales to light the darkness. The next night, Pippin arrives at Bag End to find Bilbo in his study, surrounded by maps and books, a single candle casting shadows that flicker like wraiths. A map of Middle-earth lies open, Mordor's jagged peaks drawn in stark ink. "Mr. Bilbo," Pippin says, tracing the ashen lands with a finger, "if Sauron's so powerful, does he want to destroy everything, like a dragon burning the Shire?" Bilbo's eyes narrow, and he sets aside a tome, his voice low. "A dangerous question, lad. Let's tread Mordor's shadows to find the answer. But mind your step." The candlelight glints off Bilbo's spectacles as he begins, his words heavy with the weight of ancient evil. Unlike Morgoth, his master Sauron didn't seek to raise the world, Pippin. Morgoth, as Tolkien wrote in the Silmarillion, was consumed by envy, wanting only destruction, to break what he couldn't control, like a child smashing a toy. But Sauron was different, a craftsman, at heart, as Tolkien notes in his notes on motives. He craved order, perfection, to shape ardor as he saw fit, with every creature bowing to his will. His One Ring was a tool to enforce that vision, not to burn the world, but to chain it. If he reclaimed it, he'd rule as a dark lord, not a destroyer. His evil lies in dominion, Pippin, in bending free hearts to his design. Pippin imagines Sauron in his forge, hammering the ring, his eyes alight with a twisted dream of order gone astray. The thought chills him, not with fire's chaos, but with the cold precision of a mind that sees the world as clay to mold. Bilbo leans back, the candle's flame steady as his gaze. "That's one shadow dispelled," he says. "But I see another question brewing, lad. What is it?" Pippin points to a sketch of the Arkenstone, its glow radiant even in ink. "Is this a Silmaril, Mr. Bilbo? One of those holy jewels from the old tales?" Bilbo shakes his head, a wistful smile crossing his face. "A tempting thought, Pippin, and a fine one, but no. The Silmarils, as Tolkien wrote in the Silmarillion, were crafted by Fëanor and hallowed by Vardar, burning any mortal or unclean hand that touched them. They're unbreakable, lost until Arda's end. The Arkenstone from the Hobbit was shaped by dwarves, its light beautiful but not divine, and it passed through my hands, bards, even Thorin's, without harm. Yet Tolkien's own notes hint at a link. He called the Arkenstone Eorklanstan, an Old English echo of the Silmarils, a nod to his private mythology as he wrote The Hobbit. It's no Silmaril, but a cousin in his heart. Pippin pictures the Arkenstone glowing in Erebor's halls, its light warm but mortal, a jewel that captivated Thorin yet lacked the Silmaril's sacred fire. He feels a pang of admiration for Tolkien, weaving echoes of older tales into new ones. The candle gutters, casting a brief shadow across the map, and Bilbo folds it gently. Evil and beauty, Pippin, are complex in Middle-earth, not simple tales of ruin or radiant gems. Tolkien's world holds both, and we must see them clearly. Pippin nods, his mind alight with Sauron's ambition and the Arkenstone's mystery, as the study's quiet wraps around him like a cloak. "More tomorrow, Bilbo?" he asks, his voice eager. Bilbo's smile is bright as a star. "Aye, lad. Under the next moon, we'll seek truths of time and elven hearts. Rest now, and dream of forges and jewels." Pippin steps into the night, the Shire's hills silent but alive with the weight of stories, and he knows the next tale will shine as brightly as the last. By the light of a crescent moon, Pippin finds Bilbo in his parlour, a Shire calendar pinned to the wall, its pages marked with Hobbit holidays. A teapot steams on the table, and the air is rich with the scent of chamomile. "Mr. Bilbo," Pippin says, marvelling at the familiar months, September, October, "why do hobbits use the same calendar as folk in Bree? Didn't Tolkien make his own?" Bilbo grins, pouring tea into chipped mugs. "He did, lad, and it's far cleverer than the messy one we know. Let's explore the Shire's reckoning, and you'll see." The parlour glows with lamplight, and Bilbo's voice carries the rhythm of a hobbit song. Tolkien crafted calendars for Middle-earth, Pippin, as he wrote in the Lord of the Rings appendices. The elves had cycles of 144 years, strange and vast, but the men of Númenor shaped a year like ours, with 12 months. Hobbits perfected it in the Shire reckoning. 12 months, each 30 days, no exceptions, unlike our February's quirks. 5 lithe days come in summer, free for feasting and dancing, and 2 Yule days, one at year's start, one at its end, make a double Christmas. Tolkien translated Western names like After Yule into January to feel familiar, but the Shire's calendar is its own, tidy and joyous. Imagine, Pippin, 3 days each summer just for ale and laughter, and every year syncing perfectly, no leap year nonsense. Pippin laughs, picturing Hobbiton's green fields alive with music, hobbits dancing under starlight, free from the Gregorian calendar's muddle. The Shire feels closer, its timekeeping a reflection of its simple heart. Bilbo hands Pippin a mug, the tea's warmth seeping into his hands. "That's time sorted," he says. "But what else troubles you, lad?" Pippin sips, then asks, "Are elves cold, Mr. Bilbo, like statues in the tales? They seem so stern in some stories." Bilbo's voice warms, like sunlight through leaves. "Far from it, Pippin. Tolkien's elves, in the Two Towers and the Silmarillion, brim with feeling. Legolas dances and jests atop Caradhras, his songs so moving he chokes on them. Elrond's kindness makes Rivendell a homely house, as I can attest. Even Feanor, flawed and fiery, burns with pride and grief. Samwise, meeting Glorfindel, called elves gay and sad, their hearts open to joy and sorrow alike. Films may show them stern, but Tolkien wrote them vibrant, their emotions deep as the sea. Pippin envisions Legolas singing in the snow, his laughter bright as starlight, and Elrond welcoming Bilbo with a gentle smile. Elves feel closer now, not distant lords, but kin to hobbits in their love of life. The moon climbs higher, silver light spilling through the window, and Bilbo refills their mugs. Time and emotion, Pippin, shape Middle-earth's soul, from hobbit feasts to elven songs. Tolkien's world is alive with both, if we see it truly. Pippin nods, his tea cooling, his heart warmed by the Shire's calendar and elven vibrancy. "One more night, Mr. Bilbo?" he asks, eyes bright. Bilbo's smile is soft as moonlight. "Aye, lad, the last, to honor dwarves and the tale itself. Come tomorrow by the hearth." Pippin steps into the night, the Shire's hills whispering of feasts and songs, ready for the final truths. On the final night, Pippin sits by Bilbo's hearth, a map of Erebor spread before them, its peaks drawn in faded ink. A dwarven axe replica gleams on the table, and the fire's glow casts shadows like ancient halls. "Mr. Bilbo," Pippin says, touching the axe, "are dwarves really funny, like jesters with odd accents, as I've heard in Bree?" Bilbo's face grows solemn, his voice deep as stone. "No, lad. Tolkien's dwarves are warriors of sorrow, not clowns. Let's walk their halls to see the truth." The fire roars, and Bilbo's words echo like a dwarven drum. Dwarves, Pippin, are born of Norse sagas, as Tolkien knew from poems like the Völuspá. Their names, Thorin, Dwalin, Durin, come from ancient lists, and their tongue, Khuzdul, echoes Hebrew or Arabic. Not the Scottish Burr films gave them. In the Silmarillion and the Hobbit, their history is bittersweet. They build grand kingdoms, Moria, Erebor, only to lose them to Balrogs or dragons. Each victory, like the Battle of Five Armies, costs their kings and kin, as I saw with Thorin's fall. Tolkien wrote them stout, loyal, grim, not comic relief. Gimli's honor, not jests, defines him. The funny dwarf trope is a film's fancy, not the professor's truth. Pippin pictures Thorin standing before Erebor's gate, his eyes heavy with duty, no jest on his lips, and feels a pang for the dwarves' losses, akin to Frodo's own sacrifices. Bilbo traces Erebor's peaks on the map, his voice softening. "That's one myth hewn away," he says, "but I see a final question, Pippin." "Ask it." Pippin leans forward, the fire's warmth on his face. Is The Lord of the Rings a fantasy trilogy, Mr. Bilbo? Like the books in Bree's shops? Bilbo's eyes spark, bright as mithril. It's more, lad. Tolkien wrote one vast tale, not three, as he said in his letters, split into 6 books for publishing's sake. It's no mere trilogy, but a saga, rooted in Anglo-Saxon mythology, not the whimsy of Wizard of Oz or Peter Pan. Its elves, dwarves, and dark lords birthed modern fantasy, but Tolkien drew from Beowulf's shadow, not fairy tales. The Lord of the Rings is a mirror, Pippin, of courage, loss, and hope disguised as adventure. Pippin sees Middle-earth anew, a tapestry woven with ancient threads, its heart beating in Tolkien's words. The fire settles to embers, and Bilbo leans back, his voice soft as a Shire breeze. These truths, Pippin, unveil Middle-earth's soul. Misconceptions dim its light, but Tolkien's vision of fate, sacrifice, and hope shines clear when we see it truly. Share these tales with the Shire, lad, and tell us what myths you'd unravel next. Speak your heart below. Pippin grins, clutching the axe, ready to carry Middle-earth's truths to Hobbiton and beyond. The night wraps Baggins in quiet, but the stories linger, bright as stars, guiding Pippin home.